The Protector Squad defends one of its own. Though he just recently joined the Protector Squad, Bouncing Bobby was already amazed at how much his life had changed. Not only had he become close friends with each member of the Protector Squad, he'd also built a very special relationship with his mentor and best friend, Strong Steve. They were inseparable, hanging out after school, going to each other's houses, and even taking part in the occasional game day at the local comic book store. But then something happened. It started out innocently enough. Their teacher had asked Bouncing Bobby to help a classmate, Davy Turner, with an important class assignment. Then, before you know it, Bobby becomes Davy's tutor, and they begin getting together every night in order to work on homework. Steve, on the other hand, was stuck watching from the sidelines, and to be honest, what he saw was concerning him. It wasn't that he was jealous or anything. It was fine that Bobby had other friends. It was just who his other friend was that was bothering him. For though Davy was one of the most popular kids in school, he was also one of the biggest bullies in the school. He had often victimized younger, smaller kids, and he even had a history of pushing Bobby around. But that was all in the past, Bobby thought to himself. Davy is now my good friend. But as time passed, Steve started noticing that Bobby was no longer acting like himself. It seemed as if he was tired and listless all the time. Games and fun had been forgotten. Bobby was always too busy working with Davy to enjoy trivial things. Then one day, Steve visits the local comic book store, and there he sees Davy. Yet Bobby was nowhere to be found. It turned out that Bobby's tutoring sessions with Davy had diminished until all that remained was Bobby staying at home, not just doing his homework, but Davy's homework too. Steve finally can't take it anymore, so he confronts Bobby with what he knows. "Bobby, you can't keep this up. Look at yourself. You're exhausted." "I'm fine," Bobby says, a little defensively. "I'm just helping out my friend." "He's not your friend, Bobby. He's just using you. If you refuse to see what you're doing to yourself, then at least look at what you're doing to him. You were supposed to help him, Bobby, but by doing his homework, you're just cheating him of the education that he is going to need to survive." Finally, out of frustration, Bobby storms out of the clubhouse, and as Tommy starts to give chase, Hiram stops him and calmly reminds Steve, "You can't make his decisions for him. You can just be there for him no matter what decisions he makes." The next day, Bobby meets up with his friend Davy, and he tells him, "I'm done. I can't do this anymore." "Can't do what?" Davy asks with an uncomfortable smirk. "Your homework. It just isn't right. Not for you, not for me." Davy's smile suddenly disappears, and he shoves Bobby into a side hallway out of sight. "Look, Bobby, I don't do homework, and you're not about to make me." "Well, then you'll fail," Bobby says defiantly, trying to muster all of the courage that he can. Davy balls up his fist in order to threaten Bobby when the hallway suddenly fills with children. Not just any children, it's the Protector Squad, and they're there to help one of their own. "Do you want a piece of me?" Davy says, looking at Strong Steve. Bobby steps between them. "No, Davy, this is my fight," Bobby says. Suddenly a man clears his throat and says, "No, Bobby, this is my fight." As Bobby and Davy turn to see the man that has just spoken, they find themselves looking into the face of their principal. "So you don't do homework, Mr. Turner?" the principal asks. "How about you take a seat in my office so we can talk about this further?" As Davy disappears into the principal's office, the principal turns to Bouncing Bobby and says, "I'm proud of you, son. That took a lot of courage." He then smiles as he looks around the hall at each member of the Protector Squad, and he adds, "Don't ever forget, Bobby, these are your real friends. They proved that to you today." With that said, Bobby walks over to Strong Steve with his hand extended. Surprisingly, Steve pushes Bobby's hand aside, but then wraps his arms around him, hugging him tightly, reassuring him, "We will always be friends, Bobby. Don't ever doubt that." So remember, kids, there's a superhero in each of you. All you have to do is believe in yourself.